Hello and welcome to Expert Advice. Real estate investment appreciates over a period of time, but there are many who are yet to take the advantage. And the answer to this is REITs. Today, with Mr. Sunder Korivi, we'll be talking in detail about REITs. Hello and welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, could you tell us more about REITs? What are these actually?
REITs means Real Estate Investment Trusts, REIT. In plural, they are called REITs. So, a REIT is a vehicle which enables small investors to pool their investments and hand it over to a trust. The trust holds their investment for the benefit of the investees, that is the pool investors, and invests in various properties directly in order to give a long-term return to its investors.
Okay, what is its structure?
The REIT structure is quite complex, but in layman's language, it is a combination of three entities. So, a REIT is actually a combination of three entities, namely one, the sponsor, second, the trust and the trustees, and third is the manager. The sponsor is somebody who gives life to the trust. So, a sponsor merely sets up a trust, appoints the trustees, and applies to SEBI, the regulator, for giving birth to the trust and applying for the registration to SEBI as a REITs entity. Now, the trust and the trustee together will appoint a manager. Once they appoint a manager, then schemes are designed, and one vehicle is called the SPV, the Special Purpose Vehicle. Okay. Now, this Special Purpose Vehicle actually is the one that calls for investment from investors. Okay. And this pooled money is invested in projects.
Okay, so who are the investors in REITs then?
Okay, as compared to private equity, where the investor has to invest in a minimum ticket size of 1 crore, which means it is meant for high net worth individuals or ultra high net worth individuals. In the case of REITs, if a public offer is made by the REIT, then an investor with 2 lakh rupees can invest. That means the minimum application size in the form for application of a REIT is 2 lakh rupees. Once the REITs are issued and listed, they can be traded in the secondary market. So, they can be bought and sold in the stock exchange. Now, in the stock exchange, somebody who wants to buy a REIT can buy for 1 lakh rupees. So, initial application money is 2 lakh rupees, but subsequently if you want to buy it in the secondary market, your minimum commitment is 1 lakh rupees. So, this way it is far more democratic, inviting a larger pool of investors as compared to a alternate investment fund private equity, where the minimum ticket size is 1 crore rupees.
So, you said it's democratic, and we have also heard that it's quite a transparent way for money transaction in the real estate sector.
Yes.
How and why? Could you explain that?
Now, for example, in a private equity investment scenario, the investor's vision is long run. He may not get to know, or he may not bother to know how the fund is doing every 6 months, how the private equity investment is doing, because the private equity investment company itself will take a long horizon of 5 to 7 years. In the case of REITs, what happens is the registered valuer, one is a principal valuer and then there can be an additional valuer. These two valuers value the property in which the REITs has invested, and that is reported every 6 months. So, that means if you are an investor in REITs, at least twice a year, you get to know the value of your unit.
Okay, so could you tell us what is the role of a REIT as an asset class?
Yes, as an asset class, REITs is a specialized vehicle for investing in the real estate sector. If you remember, in the case of private equity, the private equity firm invests in real estate property as well as in other projects, whereas a real estate investment trust invests exclusively in the real estate sector. That's the principal difference.
Okay, so we have PEs also in existence. They are widely used for money transaction. REITs, if you see, it's a very new concept in India. It's not even seen right now. So, is there any comparison between the two?
Yes, there are similarities and dissimilarities. in the sense both are pooled investments.
Okay.
But the dissimilarities are much more. As I mentioned to you, private equity, the minimum ticket size for an investor is 1 crore rupees. In the case of REITs, it is 2 lakhs. Second difference is that private equity invests in listed as well as unlisted companies, shares in the real estate sector as well as in manufacturing and technology companies, etc. In the case of private equity, there is no provision for listing. The private equity firm may invest in shares of companies which are listed or may not be listed. But the REITs units, in other words, the units of a real estate investment trust will be listed.
Could you elaborate these units?
Okay. Now, for example, as we were discussing the structure, a special purpose vehicle or the holding unit or the holding entity for the pooled investments, just like a mutual fund, the investors will give money and they will be given units. So let's say each unit is of 1 lakh rupees each. Okay. So these units will be given to the investor. These units will be listed in the stock exchange, and for the SPV, the money which is invested in real estate property will be valued every 6 months. As the property appreciates, the value of the units will rise. As the property depreciates, the value of the units go down. Now, depending on new investors coming in and old investors going out, units will be bought and sold. But over a period of time, if the REITs investments are well chosen, then the investor will get an appreciation. Apart from that, let me give you an example to give the viewers an idea of REITs. Some time back, say around 1994, Unit Trust of India, the then Unit Trust of India and HDFC, they came up with an idea which didn't take off, but the idea is a significant one. Unit Trust of India agreed to collect, devise a scheme to collect money from investors who are interested in the real estate price appreciation. They would collect that money and hand it over to HDFC. HDFC would invest in property because that's where they have the expertise. And from the appreciation, those properties would be sold and the money with the return would be given back to UTI and UTI would pay the investors. So, in the true sense of democracy, an investor with 10,000 rupees investing in a REITs which invests in, let's say, Powai, can triple his money. So somebody in physical terms can triple his money only if he has 5 crore or 1 crore. But in the case of REITs, that is broken into smaller denominations. For the benefit of the viewers, let me say once again that the REITs works exactly in the same manner as a mutual fund works. A mutual fund collects money and invests in shares of companies. A REITs collects money and invests in real estate projects. That's the structure.
Okay, democracy in property transactions. That's really great. Well, time for a short break. You don't go anywhere. We'll be right back really soon. Welcome back to Expert Advice. Before taking the break, we heard how democratized the process of property transactions has become because of REITs. Now let's take this conversation ahead. So, we spoke a lot about the democracy that is being seen in REITs transactions. Now tell me, sir, how the builder and the developer community would see this.
Okay. Principally, all over the world, REITs is used for financing commercial property. Although real estate, residential property is not excluded. So in India, we feel that REITs will start investing first in commercial real estate. Suppose there is a builder who has his commercial real estate property ready. He can do a bulk sale to a REIT. Once the REIT does a bulk purchase of property from the real estate developer, the developer gets his money out of the project. That means he has constructed a property and he has sold it. Only difference is instead of selling it to the final user, he has sold it to the REIT.
Okay.
Okay. So suppose the real estate cycle is not very bright. In the normal course, he would not get a sale. But because the real estate investment trust is there, he gets a sale. That means developers can find buyers in all markets, good and bad. So the REIT acts as a stabilizing agent. Now what the REIT does is, in the case of commercial property, he will hold that property and give it out on rent. So suppose there is a REIT, they buy a whole commercial complex which consists of offices. He gives it out on rent. So the REIT as a pool gets a steady flow of rent.
Okay.
That rent which is collected by the REIT will be distributed to the unit holders or the investment in the REITs like a dividend.
Okay, that's really great. In fact, the investors can also benefit from REITs. Now, sir, talking about the liquidity, do you think REITs are liquidable, or what kind of liquidity one can witness in REITs?
Okay, by definition it is extremely liquid, because at the time the REIT forms an SPV and at the time that they are proposing to collect money from the investors, the REIT will apply to the stock exchange for listing.
Okay.
It's very similar to an investor applying for shares in an IPO of a company.
Okay.
So liquidity there is more or less assured because of the listing. Because on listing, he can just pick up the phone and call his broker or do a trade. Okay, he puts his expected sale price in the system and the deal clears. Okay. Now the question is whether the REIT will be liquid in the secondary market because there are buyers and sellers. Now that is something which we will have to see, because REITs are at a very young stage in India. Globally, as far as REITs are concerned, most of the business in REITs are done in the United States, and the second biggest market for REITs is Singapore. The Singapore markets are very well organized, commercial property is very well organized, and REITs are a big player in the Singapore commercial property market.
So why hasn't it seen the day's light in India?
Okay, it's not that attempts have not been made in India. In India, the first time the REITs regulations were put forward by SEBI was in 2008. But because of the global financial crisis, and possibly there could be other reasons, was that the investment climate overall was down. So we cannot say whether it was a failure or a lack of interest in REITs. It's that the entire financial system was in a process of re-look, and therefore REITs did not succeed. But anyway, in 2013, the regulator again picked up REITs and invited public comments. And in 2014, exactly September 2014, the REITs regulations have been formulated.
Okay. Could you tell us these regulations?
Okay, these regulations are very path-breaking. In fact, the industry has welcomed the REITs regulations, which is a big plus from the market, because the market experts say that the REITs guidelines are comprehensive. The only reason why REITs may take a little longer to become popular, let's say in a year or so, is because although the union budget in July 10 explained that the REITs will be tax-free, still it was more like an interim budget, and we will really see whether the income tax benefits are available for REITs and in what form. That we will come to know only in the budget of February 28, 2015. But as far as the REITs regulations are concerned, they do several things. The first thing they do is they provide definitions. The definition of real estate is provided, the definition of floor space index, okay, TDR, and the definition of floor area ratio. These important definitions in combination with the official recognition of FDI for the construction sector actually give a big dose of boost to the real estate sector. So one thing the SEBI regulations do is they provide clear definitions, and they crystallize the official recognition as an industry for the real estate sector. The second thing is it defines the roles and responsibilities of the sponsor, roles and responsibilities of the trustee, roles and responsibility of the manager, and also the listing and the manner of valuation of the property. So this is the comprehensive nature of the REITs regulations.
Sir, as you said, REITs regulations by SEBI are very comprehensive. Besides, what are the main features?
Okay, apart from the structure which I just explained, are the investment guidelines. and the funding guidelines. When the special purpose vehicle is formed, 50% of the investment is from the REIT itself, or the REIT or the sponsor, and the public offer is made. After the public offer, at least 25% of the SPV investment must be with the REIT itself, okay, which means there is skin in the game. That means it's not that the REIT can sell units to the public and then go away. They themselves have to have a 50% stake, and at the end, in a post-listing basis, they cannot have less than 25%. Secondly, 25% is the public offer, and the magnitude of the public offer is at least 250 crore. Okay, that means it is possible that a project of 1000 crore can be funded, let's say 500 crore or 750 crore from the REIT itself, and 250 crore worth of units sold to the unit holders. That is the liability side. On the asset side, the investment guideline is 80-20. 80% of the investment is made in completed properties, and 20% of the investment is other investments. In the case of 80% investment in completed properties, those will be rent generating properties. So those rents which are generated will pay a dividend to the unit holders.
That was all about SEBI regulations for REITs. Time for another short break. You don't go anywhere. We'll be back right here, right now. Welcome back to Expert Advice. Before taking the break, we're talking about SEBI regulations for REITs. Now let's take this conversation ahead. Sir, before we headed for the break, you mentioned that REITs invest in 80% in completed projects. What about the rest 20%?
Okay, for the rest 20% there is a wide array of choices. One is to invest in incomplete projects or projects under construction.
Okay.
As you know, projects under construction don't earn any rental income.
Exactly.
But because the REITs enters into these projects during the construction period, it is possible to negotiate a better price from the developer. So when the projects take time to complete, by the time the project is completed, there is considerable capital appreciation. Okay, so just like a person buys a flat under construction, and then once the construction is complete, he can sell it at a profitable price. So 20% of the investable surplus is allowed for investment in under construction projects, okay, where the potential for capital appreciation is significant. Second, there is also flexibility to invest in shares of companies in real estate business or debentures of companies in real estate business. So as a composite measure, these 20% segment of investments out of the overall 100% gives scope for capital appreciation. So on the overall, a REITs gives you income, regular income, like an interest from the 80% of the investment, and 20% of the investment is in projects or instruments with a potential for capital appreciation. So it is very much like a balanced fund of a unit trust.
Okay, talking about the balance factor, they are responsible for capital appreciation. But what are the tax implications, or rather the tax benefits?
Okay, the tax benefits are for the REIT as a whole. Okay. Generally, anywhere in the world, when you talk about real estate investment trusts, people ask for tax benefits, either direct tax or indirect tax. Now, the Singapore REITs markets are so well developed because stamp duty and registration fees are totally waived for REITs, and that has resulted in a big boost for the real estate sector in Singapore.
Oh, that's something which India is lacking yet.
Yes. And secondly, in India, if a REIT transfers his property to the SPV, he pays stamp duty, and when REITs are issued as units and those properties are sold, again there is a stamp duty. So there is a double stamp duty, one when the asset enters the SPV, and second when the asset exits the SPV. Okay. Which is a big friction in the transaction costs. As far as direct taxes are concerned, all over the world it is recognized that the real estate investment trust itself as an entity is not subjected to tax. Okay, the same is expected here. That is perhaps what the spirit of the law is, but the industry does not have any clarity from the Central Board of Direct Taxes as to whether the REITs itself will be tax free. If you equate it to a mutual fund, then, or an equity mutual fund, then the dividend distributed by the REIT may be subjected to dividend distribution tax, and the dividend may be tax free in the hands of the investors. The REITs itself does not pay tax. The dividend is subjected to dividend distribution tax, and which is paid from the surplus, and the dividend received by the REITs investors is totally exempt from tax. This is what the industry seems to think. This is the spirit of the law, but we are waiting for the union budget to see further clarity.
Okay, so even before REITs are introduced in India, they have received a lot of mixed reviews. What's your stance on that?
Okay, when the 2008 guidelines were issued, there were mixed reviews also, and even now there seem to be mixed reviews from the market participants. But recently in September, once the guidelines came, industry experts say that the REITs guidelines are extremely comprehensive. There is absolutely no issue or problem on the structure and the processes. The only problem in REITs as far as uncertainty is concerned is the tax uncertainty. And once the tax uncertainty is resolved, then we will have to wait and see how REITs performs. On the industry side, another thing I would like to add is because of the industrial downturn, because of the economic downturn, lots of oversupply of real estate inventory is there in the market. Barring a few major cities, there is an oversupply of commercial real estate. Okay. There is an oversupply of residential real estate. But this oversupply will deplete in another 2 years' time. Okay. With the pickup in the economy. So builders will again start building. Incomplete projects will get completed. So the real future of REITs, if we have to measure it, we will have to measure it from what happens 2 years from now.
So property prices in India are increasing by the day, and REITs is not even launched properly. So when these REITs are fully functional in India and the rising prices, both the things considered, how do you see the growth potential of REITs in India? Now
the real growth potential in India can be measured 1 year from now, because inventories will stabilize and new construction will start once again. New investments will come in once again, because it is logical to assume that the new investment will go in new projects. Okay. So the new investment collected from REITs will go in new projects. So it's 1-2 years from now when we will actually be able to see whether the REITs have of potential in India or not. But from the industry, everything has been accepted, except that what has been said by the Union Finance Minister in the 2014 July budget, that REITs are a pass-through instrument. Once that is reconfirmed by the Central Board of Direct Taxes and reconfirmed in the budget of 2015 Feb. Second thing is price appreciation. The price appreciation of a project in which a REITs has invested will go to the investors in the REITs. For example, out of 100% of investable corpus, 20% will be in under construction projects and shares of real estate companies. Okay. So if a REIT invests in the shares or the projects, and 2 years later or 3 years later, the REIT will be able to sell these properties and these shares at a profit. Those profits are added to the REIT's kitty and they can be distributed as dividend to the unit holders. That's really great. Now we can only hope that REITs become fully functional in India. And thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us on REITs. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the viewers. We can now only hope that REITs come to India as soon as possible, so that as investors as well as builders and developers can reap the benefits of REITs as early as possible. Now it's time for us to leave. You keep watching Spin TV. Goodbye. Take care.